Here is another cheating podcast story about the possible dangers of letting your wife go on vacation without you and letting her go along with her girlfriends. I can't believe she would do this to me. I couldn't get off work and my wife didn't want to reschedule the trip. So she went on vacation in Hawaii with two of her girlfriends. Hey, my name is Malik and I wanted to share my story about my wife's infidelity. I never imagined we'd have any issues in our marriage, but things recently shifted and I'm wondering if something was bubbling under the surface the whole time. On the outside, it seemed like everything was going okay. We went on romantic date, traveled all over and just generally seemed like a happy married couple. But now it's clear that there were underlying issues and resentment between us that I was not aware of, which makes me angry at why we couldn't smooth it out earlier. My wife and I don't have any kids, and after years of attempting to bring children into our lives, my wife's dreams have been left unfulfilled. She has been struggling with depression ever since her body decided it wasn't able to bear children, even though we are both successful in our careers. That doesn't minimize the pain she has experienced from her inability to experience motherhood. It has certainly taken a toll on our relationship over the years, and I am pissed that something so out of our control can cause this much harm. We both recognize that communication was an area we needed to strengthen in our relationship. So when my wife proposed going on a trip to Hawaii with her girlfriends instead of rescheduling it for the two of us, I felt a wave of frustration. The heated discussion which followed exposed my failing attempts to communicate my concerns clearly and compassionately. She basically indicated the hell with me. She was going to Hawaii without me. I am honestly baffled as to why this happened after that heated discussion about going on the trip to Hawaii. And then suddenly our relationship hit a speed bump. She became distant overnight, which is so unlike her that it almost seemed like she had flipped a switch after 10 years of being together. I know my wife's characteristics and ways of behaving, and this was completely out of the ordinary. It was almost like I didn't know who she was anymore. As the days leading up to her departure ticked away, her behavior continued to change drastically, becoming more distant and aloof. She couldn't put down her phone for a moment, choosing instead to fill her time FaceTiming with her friends as they joked about all the aspects of the new nightlife they were going to experience soon. I felt frustrated and angry that she was seemingly so eager to leave. What was I supposed to do while she partied thousands of miles away? The day my wife left for Hawaii, she hugged me and kissed me goodbye like everything was normal. She even told me she loved me, but I felt anything but normal. I was angry about how her attitude was up until she left. But I didn't say anything or confront her about my feelings. I just let her go and have her fun. When she finally arrived in Hawaii, I was filled with an array of emotions, frustration and anger. Instead of getting off the plane and calling me right away to tell me she made it safely, my wife decided to wait and do her own thing. She thought that she didn't value our relationship enough to let me know. Immediately crossed my mind several times as I spent the entire day searching for updates on her flight status to top that off. My wife was going for 4 days without calling or texting. When my wife got back from Hawaii, she was a different person. When she walked in the door, she didn't hug me but she kissed me on the cheek. I was like, what the hell? Fast forward a week. Nothing has changed. But I noticed one night that my wife went to use the bathroom and she grabbed her phone and took it in the bathroom with her. 1 month goes by and we haven't been intimate at all. Now, I am suspicious and think something happened in Hawaii. Well, fast forward another week and my suspicions were confirmed. One of my girlfriend's boyfriends overheard a conversation about my wife hooking up with 2 guys in Hawaii, and my wife bragged to her girlfriends that she was also sleeping with someone here locally. Her boyfriend reached out to me over Facebook Messenger and told me not to say anything. And when I heard that, I was devastated. My wife was on a job when I found out she had cheated on me and was probably still cheating here with someone. I was crying after I found out. I wiped away my tears and tried to think what my next steps were going to be. I thought about confronting her, but she would probably deny it. After all, this guy told me he overheard a conversation that my wife cheated. I felt so much rage. I thought about beating her, but I couldn't. I had to get some type of proof. I called a few private investigators. They were just too expensive for my budget. So I called a really good friend and told them what happened and what I just found out. He said, "Why don't you set up cameras in the house? 2 in your bedroom, the living room and the kitchen, and 1 covering the entrance." He said they need to be small enough to where they are not noticeable. I went out and bought some cameras before my wife came home. My friend came over to help me install the cameras in my home. My friend suggested I tell my wife that I was leaving on a work trip for a few days for some more on-the-job training. Within 2 days, I was at his house pretending I was gone on a work trip. Well, I was able to monitor the cameras and she went out a couple of nights. Then one night, she came home with the man. They walked in. She was holding his hands. They started kissing in the living room. Made their way up to the bedroom and she was intimate with this man in our bed. I lost it. I was ready to run out the door. But my friend stopped me. My friend says, "No, we can't do it like this." After I calm down, he gives me the number of a well-known attorney in the area. So the next morning I monitor the cameras to see when my wife left for work. When she left for work, I went over to the house and gathered the footage. Once I gathered all of the footage, I called a lawyer that my friend recommended and made an appointment for the next day. My wife still thinks I am going for my work trip. She sends me a text out of the blue asking how the training is going. But I never responded. The next day I met with the attorney and he basically told me that since I have proof of my wife's infidelity, it pretty much voids her from getting any kind of alimony. After meeting with the attorney, I monitored the cameras at the house and saw that my wife came home, packed an overnight bag, it seems, and left. I called my friend right away and told him what I saw. He said not to worry about that and concentrate on this divorce, and he was right at this point. That was my main concern. I later called the attorney and had him file for divorce on the grounds of adultery. The attorney asked me, did I know about my wife's finances? I told the attorney that my wife owns her own interior decorating business. I said she made $95,000 last year and I made $65,000. He asked me, did I want to try for alimony? I declined, but I did tell him I want as much of that house we own as I can get. The house we own has about $400,000 in equity in it. That's what I wanted. I didn't care about alimony. Give me the house and she can go to hell. Fast forward 2 days. My lawyer told me he filed for divorce on my behalf. And I went back to my friend's place. Another week goes by and my wife is wondering where I am and wherever she went that day. When she packed the bag, I am assuming she went to her PS house, but no one knows. Fast forward 2 weeks and my wife and I seem like strangers. By the way, I haven't slept in the bed with her either. I have been sleeping in the guest bedroom. And my friend told me, as well as the attorney, to not sleep with her. Another week passes. And my attorney reaches out to me and says that my soon-to-be ex-wife will be served soon. 4 weeks later, my wife was served at home while I was at work. She just happened to be at home that day. I get a barrage of phone calls, text messages, you name it. Well, that prompted her to get her own attorney and the war started. We go back and forth about the house and I basically told my attorney, I am not giving up the house without a fight up until the date of the divorce hearing. My wife was on a table calling me names, berating me, saying she was glad she cheated, and all kinds of hateful and nasty things at court. My lawyer did his thing in the end. The judge told us when the house was sold, I would get 75% of the equity. And my ex-wife would get 25% of the equity. The house had $400,000 in equity. She would get $100,000 and I get the rest. But the judge let her stay in the house until it was sold. and I just stayed at my friend's house. The house was only on the market for 3 weeks before it sold. My ex-wife got her $100,000 in cash and I took the rest. This was heartbreaking for me only because her mental shift was sudden and she wasn't the same person anymore. It was horrifying to see about a month after we sold the house. My friend said he saw my ex-wife at a baseball game with some guy who looked like he was on drugs. He said, "Man, the guy she was with looked horrible and she didn't look good either." Then the strangest thing happened. This woman called me, left a voicemail crying, apologizing and asking, "Can we try again?" Well, I did not respond to her at all. I didn't block her number every time she called or text. I just deleted it. She did this for almost a month until I decided to just change my number. This is too long already. I want to thank Tony for allowing me to share my story. In my opinion, this man is kind of lucky. The reason I say that he had this one person, this one other human, his friend who stopped him from probably resorting to violence and inflicting harm on his wife. He would have lost his freedom, lost out on pocketing over $250,000 from the sale of his home. As I always say, try not to resort to violence in your relationship. It's never ever going to end well for you. If you are the one initiating it, control your temper and do it the right way. Until next time.